The bells of Saint-Étienne tolled as though the city itself wept, their iron throats pouring grief across the rooftops, down the crooked alleys, into the marrow of the people gathered at the square. The old king was dead. The coffin, vast and lacquered black, carried on the shoulders of 12 sweating men, moved like a lumbering beast through the crowd. His banners, once crimson, now soaked in rain and ash, dragged upon the ground. Candles guttered in the morning drizzle. Women pressed kerchiefs to their lips, though few mourned sincerely. His reign had been cruel, his hand merciless. But all knew the passing of power from father to son never came without blood. And now the son was but a boy. He stood upon the cathedral steps, clad in ermine that seemed to swallow his slight body whole. His hair, pale as flax, clung damp to his temples. The circlet of gold, hastily set upon his brow that dawn, looked monstrous, as if mocking the child beneath it. He was 9 years old, and yet his eyes were wide with something far older, something already aware of danger. "Long live the king," the archbishop intoned, though his voice cracked as if the words resisted him. 1,000 voices echoed it, but unevenly, splintered by unease. "Vive le roi!" The boy swallowed hard. He turned his gaze upward, as if to the heavens where his father's soul, or perhaps his curse, might linger. He had not cried since the moment the crown touched his brow. He dared not. He had been told in a whisper as sharp as steel, "A king does not weep before wolves." Behind him, the Queen Dowager placed a hand upon his shoulder. Her touch was cold, steady. She was a woman carved of marble, with eyes like obsidian polished smooth, unreadable. She leaned down so only he could hear. "Stand still," she murmured. "They will smell weakness." He obeyed. Inside the cathedral, the incense choked the air, mingling with the rot of unwashed bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. The boy king followed the coffin down the nave, his small hand clutching the orb too large for his fingers. He thought of his father lying within, that box of cedar skin already turning waxen. He thought of the nights he had heard him roaring in rage, striking courtiers, soldiers, even his own queen. He thought of the silence that had followed at last, broken only by whispers, poison, perhaps, or the work of God himself. When the service ended, the nobles pressed forward. Lords in furs heavy as armor, bishops glistening with jewels, ambassadors with narrow eyes. They bowed not too low, not too sincerely. Each one's gaze lingered too long on the boy, measuring him, calculating how long such a fragile reed might bear the weight of a crown. That night in the great hall, the court feasted in the dead king's honor. The boy sat at the head of the table, his feet not touching the floor. Platters of roasted boar, venison dripping blood, and eels slick with butter passed before him. The laughter was too loud, the goblets drained too quickly. Men who yesterday trembled at the old king's wrath now laughed like hyenas in the wake of carrion. He lifted a spoon to taste the pottage, but the Queen Dowager's hand stopped him. She had servants test every dish, watching with eyes sharpened by suspicion. The boy understood. His father had warned him once with a smile full of broken teeth. "A crown is a noose tied with silk. You eat only what others dare swallow first." From the shadows, he noticed a man staring. He was tall, draped in black, his face gaunt as bone, his beard streaked with iron. The boy recognized him, the Lord Chancellor, the most powerful man at court besides the Queen herself. Their eyes met, and the boy felt a chill. The Chancellor bowed his head slightly, but it was not reverence. It was the acknowledgement of a player greeting another piece upon the board. When the feast dwindled, the boy was led to his chamber, high in the east tower. Torches guttered in the stairwell and tapestries stirred as if whispering. He undressed, in silence, save for the soft voice of his nurse who hummed a lullaby she had sung to him since cradle days. But sleep would not come. He rose from his bed and pressed his face to the window. Below, the city spread like a wound, the river gleaming. Faintly under a sliver of moon, fires smoldered in the poorer quarters, and he could hear the clamor of unrest, voices carried faintly through the damp air. Long live the king, he whispered to himself, though it sounded hollow, as though mocking him. A knock at the door startled him. The nurse rose, frowning. She opened it to reveal a page boy, pale and shaking. "His Majesty must come at once," the boy stammered. "The Queen commands it." The nurse wrapped him quickly in a cloak, muttering, "It is near midnight. What business?" But the Queen waited in the chapel by torchlight. The boy entered, the cold biting through his bare feet upon the stones. His mother stood before the altar, her hands clasped, lips moving in prayer or perhaps conspiracy. Beside her, the chancellor loomed like a shadow made flesh. "You summoned me?" the child whispered. The queen turned, her eyes unreadable. She placed both hands on his shoulders. "My son," she said, her voice calm, "tonight you must understand the truth. You are king in name, but wolves circle this throne. You must trust only me. Do you hear? Only me." The chancellor stepped forward. His voice was deep, smooth, yet cruel beneath its velvet. "There are whispers, Majesty. Men who say you are too young. Men who would place another upon the throne. A cousin, an uncle, a bastard with a louder voice." The boy's heart thudded. He looked between them. "What must I do?" His mother knelt, bringing her face level with his. She brushed his hair back tenderly, though her hand trembled. "You must learn to silence them," she said. "As your father did." The torches hissed. The boy shivered. The chancellor smiled thinly. "Tomorrow, your first command must be given," he said. "There is a traitor in this court, and you will order his death. If you falter, all will see weakness. And weakness, Majesty, is the same as death." The boy's throat closed. His small hands balled into fists. His mother's eyes softened, though they gleamed like glass in the firelight. "You will speak the words," she whispered. "You must, or you will vanish from this world like smoke from the censer." The child swallowed, nodding slowly. But in the shadows of the chapel, unseen, someone else listened. A figure cloaked in gray, eyes glinting through the veil of darkness. They had heard every word, and before dawn broke, that secret would set the castle on fire. The dawn crept into the castle like a thief. Pale fingers of light slid through narrow slits of stone, revealing the dust motes that drifted in the chill of the great hall. Servants hurried, their shoes slapping against wet flagstones, carrying trays of trenchers, buckets of water, baskets of coal. The castle always stirred early, but today there was an undercurrent of dread. News had spread in whispers. The boy king would give his first command. He sat upon the throne, his feet dangling above the dais, his body swallowed by robes of heavy velvet. The crown slipped forward upon his brow, too large for his narrow skull. He did not dare touch it. He remembered his mother's voice, "Do not fidget, do not falter. Kings do not squirm." The chancellor stood beside him, his shadow long across the rushes. Courtiers filled the hall, lords with jeweled belts, priests with hands hidden in wide sleeves, soldiers in battered armor, all eyes fixed upon the child. The Queen Dowager sat in her chair of state, unmoving. Her gaze was steady as a blade's edge, watching her son's every breath. She knew, as did they all, that a single tremor could doom him. The herald struck the floor with his staff. "Bring forth the accused." The boy's heart stumbled in his chest. He had not been told who it would be. 2 guards dragged a man. between them. His robes, once rich with fur trim, were torn. His beard was tangled, his eyes bloodshot from a night without sleep. He stumbled, but his chin was raised with something like pride. The boy knew him. It was Lord Arnul, a knight of his father's court, who had taught him once how to grip a sword, who had carried him on his shoulders at a tourney so he might see, above the press of men. His stomach twisted at the sight. The Chancellor's voice cut the silence. Lord Arnul stands accused of treason, of conspiring with foreign envoys to see another crowned in place of his majesty. What say you? Arnul's voice rang out, steady despite the bruises on his face. I say I am innocent. I swore my oath to the crown, and to this boy I would have given my life. But there are vipers here who twist truth into nooses. His eyes flicked toward the Chancellor, sharp as daggers. The hall murmured. Some nodded. Others whispered. The boy king's hands trembled in his lap. He remembered his mother's words. You must silence them, or you will vanish from this world like smoke. The Chancellor leaned close, his breath foul, his whisper colder than steel. Now, Majesty, speak the words. Condemn him and you are king. Fail and you are nothing. The boy's throat closed. He looked to his mother. Her eyes never moved, but her lips parted. Say it, she mouthed. Arnul's gaze turned to him. For the first time, the boy saw not pride, but something gentler, sorrow, as if he knew what must come. He gave the faintest shake of his head. The child king's lips cracked open. His voice, thin as a reed, wavered across the hall. Lord Arnul, guilty of treason. The silence that followed was suffocating. The Chancellor's eyes gleamed. He nodded to the captain of guards. Arnul's voice boomed one last time. Then may God judge this court, for no man here has the courage to speak truth. The guards dragged him toward the courtyard where the block awaited. The boy wanted to rise, to shout, to say he was wrong, to call it back. But his mother's hand, cold upon his shoulder, held him fast. Do not look away, she murmured. The doors opened. The crowd outside roared. From the throne, he heard the dull thud of the axe, the gasp of voices, the sudden silence. A stain spread across his chest, though no blood had touched him. He could not breathe. The Chancellor stepped forward, bowing deeply. The king has spoken. Long live his majesty. The court echoed him louder, more certain this time. Long live the king. But their eyes glimmered with something else. Calculation, fear, hunger. That night, the boy lay in his chamber, his head pressed into the pillow to stifle his sobs. He had kept them in all day, biting his lip until he tasted iron. His nurse tried to soothe him, whispering prayers, but her own hands trembled as though she, too, feared his crown. Sleep came only in fragments. He dreamt of Arnul, head bowed, blood spilling across white snow. He dreamt of wolves circling, teeth bared. He dreamt of fire, of bells tolling, of vanishing into smoke. And then he woke to the sound of footsteps, not the soft tread of his nurse, not the shuffle of guards. These were silent, deliberate, too careful. The boy held his breath. The latch turned. The door creaked. Moonlight caught the edge of a blade. A figure cloaked in gray slipped into the chamber. A hood shadowed the face, but eyes glinted faintly beneath. The boy shrank back against the wall, his voice strangled. Who are you? The figure raised a hand. Silence, Majesty. I am no foe. The voice was low, urgent, but not cruel. A woman's voice. The boy trembled. Why do you carry a knife? To cut away lies, she whispered. She stepped closer, and he saw her face at last. Gaunt, scarred along the cheek, eyes the color of storm. You do not know me, but I swore to your father once. I swore to protect the blood of the crown. You are in danger, child. More danger than you can dream. He could not speak. Tonight they test you with a loyal knight's blood, she said. Tomorrow they will test you with your own. You must leave this castle, or you will not live to see another winter. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might tear through his chest. Leave? Escape? He had never stepped beyond the gates without guards, never ridden farther than the hunting grounds. My mother. The woman's face twisted with something between grief and fury. Your mother is the snare, and the chancellor is the knife at your throat. Do you not yet see? He shook his head violently, though tears welled in his eyes. No, he whispered. She is all I have. The woman leaned close, her breath fierce against his ear. Then you are already lost. The door slammed open. Torchlight flooded the chamber. Guards stormed in, blades drawn. The woman whirled, knife flashing, cutting one across the throat. The boy screamed as blood sprayed across the bedclothes. Run! The woman cried, but rough hands seized him, dragging him from the sheets. His cries echoed off the stone as the woman fought, her gray cloak billowing, her blade catching torchlight. She cut down another guard, but more poured in, overwhelming her. The last thing the boy saw before he was carried into the corridor was her face, lit by fire, eyes burning with defiance as she vanished beneath a flood of steel. And the chancellor's voice behind it all, calm and venomous. Take the boy to the crypt. He will not see daylight again.